approaches to stigmatization, because the concerns coming out of the social norm study, well, a recommendation that was made at least, is to utilize social media messaging in an effective way, something that can translate across all groups out there. So what I want to know is, from a public education campaign, do you see it being useful to address the situation at this time in the face of the pandemic with regards to persons not having to resort to the incident that took place with the gentleman on the bus? Claudette.
Social media is the best of both ills. It can be good and it can be bad. It's really about how the messages are packaged, and it's really age-appropriate message. So the message for children would be slightly different from the message for adults and seniors and so. So it's really looking at how we package the message and how do we carry the message. Is it that we're going to preach to them, we're going to talk to how? Is it through the music? Is it through the drama? What are we using? What are the vehicles to carry the message? I think it's also important that the message must be short and sweet. We don't have time for the long story, and with social media, that's very important. So it must be hip, it must be hype, it must be for young people, it must be something that they can relate to. So it's important to do the research with them and to do the testing of the message with them before you start rolling it out.
Okay, thank you. Kevaughn, what I'm going to throw to you now is, and as a young person, we're all young here though, but from your perspective, Kevaughn, working with young people as well, do you think that one message fits all? No, we have the campaigns on the TV and we have the town criers, but Claudette mentioned breaking it into groups. What messaging do you think correlates with what groups? So we have the children, we have the young adults, we have the, let us say, the working class people, and we have the elderly. What messages do you think they will respond to more?
For me, if they should have some form of like a drama advertisement or so.
So we're starting with the children first?
Yes, that would work for the children. In terms of the young people and the working class, I think social media would be effective. And for the elderly, the town clerk, the town crier
Mm-hmm.
would definitely be the best thing.
Okay. All right, Claudette. So looking back on HIV campaigns, because that is another stigma-related campaign, what lessons have you learned in the field that you think can be transferred and become applicable at this time with dealing with a non-violent approach to persons who may have COVID, or just in general, what would be useful to get the message across? What lessons have you learned from HIV campaign?
Okay, so there have been many lessons learned from HIV. The learning took a while, yeah? So I think in this COVID pandemic is how do we transfer the knowledge from the HIV campaign in terms of stigma and discrimination and use that now to inform what we are doing. And some important lessons that we learned early on in the campaign was the fact that a familiar face makes a difference. So we were able to identify at one stage in the campaign where there were persons from the communities that were at the stage where they were willing to talk about the fact that they were positive because they had accepted it. They had already told their families and so on. Were at the stage where they could be the face of HIV. So it's in this corona time, it's not finding somebody who have corona or who is positive, but finding the messenger in your community who you would listen to, who carrying the message is important, you know, and finding young persons to carry the message for young persons, older persons to carry the message, and really finding the ways to reach people, because that reach is so important, and testing the messages before we roll them out. I also think that in terms of social media and really, we have to look at what is the best time, because sometimes the messages are placed, not a soul or pay you any mind, because there are all kind of things happening. The children using the phone because that's what they're using to do their schoolwork in the middle of the day. So that time would be good. Is it later in the afternoon when they're going to watch people business? What time is good for the messaging and how the messages are placed and boosted?
Got you. Kevaughn, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, as Claudette,
the delivery.
Yeah, as Claudette said, in terms of the time, it's very important because when you're looking at the entire day, a lot of people are still on the road. A lot of people are busy doing stuff. But you see, once it reach curfew time, then everybody really get to the phone or the television. You know, that's when. So the timing is very important, and also who bringing in the message, because if, as Claudette said, you have somebody from inside the community, I think the closer it is to people, then it would be more realistic, because whenever a person sometime in the community is looking for motivation, sometimes if they know that this person is from the community and they did it, then it would be more believable for them. So that would be strategic to use somebody who is familiar to the community and also the time.
Okay. Kevaughn, still keeping on you. In Almond Town though, we mentioned the use of town criers, we mentioned the use of social media. What happens to persons who may not have access to these channels? Well, the town crier will play that everybody will hear. But what happens to persons who don't necessarily have a data plan, or those persons who don't have a TV at home to watch a skit on the phone? How do we still get the messages across to those persons?
Well, as it relates to social media, young people, usually whatever is happening on social media is usually discussed in a conversation whenever young people, because they still find the means and ways to communicate with each other. So when you go social media, that will definitely be something. Social media is a place where things get viral. And a lot of persons don't have data, but a lot of persons can catch on somebody Wi-Fi and just keep up to date. So that is what young people now gravitate.
Okay. What I realized in recent times is that a lot of organizations have been utilizing the SMS way of communicating. So they'll send a little briefing in the 140 characters or whatever it may be for, I guess, persons who are without access. Now, Claudette, sometimes the message comes through one ear and it goes to the other, probably one eye and out through the other. Do you think that that is a workable solution for us here in Jamaica, the use of the SMS messaging?
It depends on who you're targeting, because remember the literacy challenge too, yeah? And are we writing in social media language? You understand? So that too is a challenge. Some person just in do this whole reading thing. Yes. So maybe it was a voice note, which is very stylish.
Maybe that is what people tend to share. And I'd like how we're mentioning these points now, because clicking the share button is so much easier nowadays than to engage in anything else. So that's why this is something hot to run than the forward. So some people may be familiar with sharing, some people may be familiar with forwarding. Probably those are the avenues that we need to explore. But viewers, if you're just joining in, we're also taking your comments, concerns, questions in our live chat. So if you have any questions for either of our panelists, Claudette, Pious, or Kevaughn, Ellis, you can send it to us here, and in the interest of time, we will try to answer as many as possible. But in terms of good things coming out of the pandemic though, Claudette and Kevaughn, what do you think about persons coming together in communities and creating sanitization stations and ensuring that everybody mask up and stay protected? Isn't it lovely to see that happening? Jamaican people just coming together for good.
The innovation is up. We are really a resilient set of people, you know, and we're going to find a way. I mean, somebody was saying, so how we going to get the money to buy the sanitizer all the time? And another person said, don't worry about that, man, we'll find a way. So it's really about the community trying to protect themselves and be safe. And it's really a model that I think that a lot of communities and the powers that be and the community leaders and the CDCs and so should really look at this as a very good model. Because I mean, coming into the community, you're sanitized. I mean, it makes, if it's even the comfort level, because the fear factor is really up. And it would make you even more comfortable to know that this is happening in your community.
Yes. And I see that Hanover has been making some great efforts towards that movement where they're looking out for each citizen. I see the same thing happening in Spanish Town, and I see the same thing happening by Big Yard in Havendale. So I must say these efforts are commendable. Kevaughn, you are the man of innovation now. What do you think, outside of the messaging, what is applicable in terms of Allman Town to get people more aware? Do we want to introduce some kind of sanitation challenge or an education campaign challenge where it's done on the streets? And you tell me more how you'd go about this approach, because I know you are the man for track on streets and may shed something useful that could be applicable here.
Yeah, I must say I commend the communities and the parishes who are trying to fight the COVID-19 by coming together, and I wish my community would do the same. However, probably if we find something like a challenge, like a community challenge or something more entertaining, then it will, I think a lot of communities will gravitate to it. So if we have persons who are influential and like leaders inside of the community and the right leaders, then I think a challenge could work. And funny enough, inside our communities, it's not every leader can really pull forward people. So probably the quote-unquote original era leaders can do it, probably not. Sometimes leaders like myself, so it's really, if we could come together along with like the police youth club, the police, and any former leader inside of the communities, and say we're going to do a challenge or we're going to protect the space, then we definitely think it would work. And also looking at it on a standpoint that the elderly are more vulnerable to the virus, and you're looking at it like you're protecting your own grandmother and protecting your mother, your father. Because a lot of people just feel like, okay, I'm in the street, I do whatever I want, then I just come in and grandma and grandpa is not safe. So if we do something like that, then it will definitely work.
Okay, great. And another thing that I see bringing people together is, and I'm not sure this is being done in every community, is where they have persons donating masks, or persons that are seamstress in a community who does have some time on her hands, and she probably received some donated fabric, and she's making masks for her neighbors. So this is how we can still have community engagement in this pandemic. We can still have engagement that we've been looking for and trying to get for the longest time, because I'm seeing comments here now that some people don't even know who is in their community. So if we want to set up a sanitization stand and you have persons going in and out, you become more familiar. It's a familiar face. It's a new face who we can have dialogue with. If something happened to you, you know that this person is here. We also have concerns coming in about how police and how they deal with people in this pandemic. And it's interesting to discuss this, because with the curfew now, we see a lot of cat and mouse being played. Persons want to wait until last minute and they pitch up on the roadside just to be caught by the police. Like there's some adrenaline there associated with the police. Claudette and Kevaughn, I'm going to ask you both to speak about this. The role of the police in this time, how crucial it is, in your opinion?
I think it depends on the relationship the police have with the community. And for a lot of youngsters, it's the fun and the run up and down and the getaway from them, and with how late we were on the road last night, and the hype in the morning. It is very much dependent though on the relationship that the police and the community have before the pandemic. So if there's a relationship that have been built over time, it's easier, because I've seen where police from the community unit goes into a community even before this curfew time and say, remember now, we're coming at X time, so set up on yourself. And the community respect that. So if there's a level of understanding between the police, that the police are actually just carrying out their role and function, and the community understand and respect that the police really trying to help you to help yourself, it can work. I also think that the the importance of over time building that community spirit is so important. So as a community, this is what we stand for. This is how the things set. This is how we're going to function.
Okay, great. Kevaughn, in Almontown, are you seeing any situation like that where persons are quote unquote messing with the police, so to speak, just for the hype the following morning?
Yeah, every evening. Every evening you have that in my community. People just find it entertaining, as Claudette said, to build a conversation in the morning. As the curfew lifts, you find people talking about what happened last night. You know, and for persons like me who are inside, sometimes we're passing, that's when we really know what happened. In my community, I've heard that police broke up man and man run from police and all of that. People just, to me, they always set up like a few minutes before the curfew, and then they're ready for the cat and mouse. People can go at them, they know them can go at them yard, and them still itch up on the corner just to see him for do the run up and down thing. But the police and the soldiers are very important in curbing this. If the relationship is good between the police and the people, then it will be easier done. But you find that the perspective that people inside the community, especially the inner city communities, it's not good. It's not a good perspective. So a lot of times you hear persons in my community say, well, if it was uptown, they would have to ask for a search warrant. But whenever you're in Kingston 4, it's like that don't exist. You know, so the stigma with the police and the people is a big challenge, and a lot of people just say, oh, you know, Babylon, them are feds and them always are trying to fight you. And one of the things people don't realize is police are the people and from the same community. You know, is a people like we just the same. So persons say police, Babylon for dead and all of them things, but at the end of the day, I just wanna we just that a youth grow up and decide to join the force for whichever reason. So it's just the relationship between the police and the people.
So how can we capitalize on this time now to form meaningful engagement with the security forces? I mean, their presence is felt there, they're seen there. What can, if a police is tuning in now or a member of the JDF is tuning in, what solution would you propose to them to make a connection with the community at this time? Claudette?
Yeah.
Or Kevaughn, like how you're here, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's always for the police to approach the community. Once you have that, then it would be a different perspective than for the community members to approach the police. So even when it's not curfew time and you know people are on the road, the police can probably pull up on the car and talk to the people and build a relationship and make them know, say, when later, you know, a lucky in time, and even you gotta hear people say, well, inside of the house, art and this and that, but you know, them kind of reason with them and build a relationship, and then people will have a different perspective and good one.
And have positive outcomes for the longer term and not necessarily just in the pandemic.
Yes, for long term.
Claudette, similar thoughts, opposing thoughts?
They have been having concerts.
Okay, go ahead. Go again. We missed the first part of the statement.
Right. So I was saying is, how do you engage the community? Like in Spanish Town, they have been having concerts. And the JCF concert that was done last week was really something else. You were seeing a lot of talent. So it's some of that same talent coming to the community, and they have also asked persons in the community to participate. Is the football match, is the learning program that is happening in the West, where the police are actually collecting the lessons for the persons in the community and actually sharing that. So it creates an opportunity for persons in the community to take their children and collect the paper and have a little discussion. Sometimes a lot of other issues that are there, because I got a call from somebody who was saying, you know, as an officer, she wasn't sure how to deal with an issue that really had to do with a child in the community. And it came out of the fact that the child came to collect the paper with the mother, and the child didn't seem happy, and the mother was able to say, this is what is happening. Her father was killed and she's missing her father. So, and you know, the police was able to reach out and say, we need to organize some counseling for the child. So it's building that relationship. Police are real people.
Got you, got you. I'm seeing a question here. What services are being effective in communities? So we're asking viewers who are here, who are out of town as well, what services are being effective at this time? And also, we want to discuss mental health issues. How do we approach those persons who may not necessarily know what is happening with regard to the pandemic, but still susceptible to violence? How do we deal with those situations?
I think the mental health issue is a big one. As a society, I don't think we pay enough attention to it. Children First is very blessed to have a very functional psychologist on the team. And boy, he is overworked because there is a lot going on. The whole fear of this thing, the job loss, the uncertainty, the children at home, the domestic violence, you and the man and the children in the same space, we're not used to each other, and you're all in the space from early in the evening till tomorrow morning. All the things that earlier just didn't become an issue are now big issues. The survival, the fact that you're hungry, and the pot, you don't have what to put it at the pot, and if the pot can't cook, and the man can't go to hustle, I mean, him sell 2 things on the corner, that is not happening. So it's a whole truckload, you know, of issues going on. And persons who already have depression challenges, that is coming to the fore.
Yes.
You know, so it's really a lot going on there.
All right, thanks for that. Sashana wants to know if it is okay for police to beat citizens. Now, this may be somewhat of a tricky subject, and we're not advocating for violence here, and that may be considered as a violent act, but how do you resolve an issue that is of concern to a citizen and the police needs to address it? What other means, as opposed to beating, can the police enforce? Kevaughn.
Yeah, that could definitely be considered as violent. I think there's always a better way, even from a parent to a child perspective. You know, a lot of kids get beaten, but really and truly that don't really stop them from doing wrong. So I think police should be, you know, if you're going to serve and protect, I think police should be trained that way so they could sit down with persons sometime and show them a different perspective in terms of beating. Because once a police beat a man, you know, is one more person that are going to eat the JCF. And not only one, but that person, friends and family also are going to be added to the list. So that is never yet the solution. And even if, as I said, parent to a child, when you beat a child, you know, them just build up some anger in them, they might still love you, but you're not really getting a positive from that. So I think if you're going to serve and protect, they should find more strategic ways to get to the people.
Okay, great. Michelle says violence hasn't stopped with COVID, which is true. Good community-based policing is needed to help police enforce laws and restrictions. Also, we have Damien here saying schools and access to education is the best way to reduce violence. All right, and seeing, I'm just realizing the time it is now 5:35. We had promised a half-hour discussion, but before we go, just want to wrap up a few of the points. We discussed that the message is important. We need to be targeted with the messages, and we need to be culturally sensitive with them. Relationships matter at this time, and especially with the police and persons who are serving communities, be it other civil society groups, individuals who have a vested interest in solving violence and creating safer spaces. the whole matter of relationships needs to be revisited. We're looking on mediums to get communities engaged. So we discuss concerts, we discuss football matches, we discuss the whole fact of persons collecting the documents from school and taking it to the different communities. These are the solutions that we find to be working in this time in the pandemic. But Claudette, before we go, and Kevaughn, I'm just going to ask you to leave a few words with us about keeping peace in a pandemic, maybe one sentence that our viewers can resonate with after leaving the session. And Claudette, we can begin with you.
Let the peace begin with you in the pandemic. Take care, take charge, be responsible, and most importantly, be safe.
Thank you. Kevaughn?
For peace in the pandemic, just be safe, be cooperative, be respectful, look out for each other, and we'll be okay as an entire country.
There you go. There you go. All right. Thank you so much for everyone that's joining us, who have joined us today and who have participated in the discussions. Now, for the following week, which will be week 2 of the series, we'll be discussing a virtual feeding and reading program with Dr. Kim Scott. And also, before we wrap up, I'm just going to note that we'll be sharing our hotline numbers that we've received for persons who are in need of support for different services, be it mental health, domestic abuse, parenting guidance and support. We will share those on the screen for about a minute or so after. So if anyone has any other questions or concerns, any matters for the Violence Prevention Alliance to follow up with, you can contact us by emailing vpajamaica@gmail.com. All our social media handles are VPA Jamaica, and our WhatsApp number is 876-466-3943. So that's 876-466-3943. And thanks again for tuning in. Tanaya, that's Andrew Holness, and stay safe, mask up. Take care, everyone.